All right, welcome back, guys. We are here to talk about Reserves 2.0. So let's get right into it. Quick disclosure here, guys, because we are talking about finances and self-development. Please use the following information for educational purposes only. We are not lawyers, certified public accountants, or financial advisors. We don't practice in any of these things, and we are not certified in any of these things. Please seek professional advice on an as-needed basis. Thank you so much. Housekeeping. So guys, before we get into this, I want you to really make sure that you watch the video that was on how to budget without losing your mind. That's important. If you haven't watched that one yet, please stop this video, watch that one first. We'll put a link down in the description here. But that one comes before this one. We're assuming here that you have a freedom plan in place and you are tracking it. And you have hit your first reserve goal. Congratulations. All right. Yeah. You're this guy. Look, this guy approves of you. He's so proud of you. And he's got the arms crossed. So that means that he means business, but he's smiling. That means he's, you can tell he's a good guy, right? Right. Okay. Uh-oh. This lady, she found out that you're skipping ahead on videos and she's not very happy with you. She's scolding you right now and she wants you to go back and watch. She's giving you that stink eye, mean mug, all the above. All right, enough of that. Let's move on. So if you haven't watched the videos, guys, previous to this, go back and watch those, please, because you're only hurting yourself. Just to recap here, reserves. What are reserves for? Well, when it rains out, when it pours, when your car breaks down, your roof gets a leak, maybe you lose your job for a couple months. Anything when life, quote unquote, happens to you. That's what reserves are for. It's a pool of money that's sitting there to pay for stuff that you are not necessarily budgeting for. It's not a monthly expense that you have on there. New muffler for your car is not a monthly expense, but you got the money there anyway. To do this, you've created a discipline to put money aside every single month, every single paycheck, to build up that reserve amount. You've turned that into a habit and that habit into a reflex. That's a tough thing to do, especially during the discipline and habit phase, but you've done it and then now it's a reflex. You don't even got to think about it. Monthly expenses. You've calculated what your monthly expenses are. This is my total monthly expenses, and you've also added in your reserve costs too. The muffler, the hot water tank that breaks down on you, the loss of a job for a few months. All those have been calculated in there, and you've figured out what your real monthly expense is, and you multiplied that by X months. And whatever that number of months are is your total amount that you need to have in your reserves. It's fluid too, guys. A reserve is fluid. Most of the time, you're putting money into it. Things are going well. Things aren't breaking down. It's flowing in one direction. You're building it up. But when it rains, that money comes back out. You get your car fixed. Maybe you pay your insurance that you don't pay every single month, or you pay your property taxes twice a year. It goes back and forth. You hit your goal. Now, what do you do next? Well, we're going to get into that. What's best for me? What should we be avoiding? And what should I be leaning into? That's kind of our overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So let's just jump right into it. We're at the point now where you've hit that reserve mark. Congratulations. What do we do next? What's the next baby step, so to speak? Well, one thing you can do is you can keep funding it. You can grow your months. If you're on the lower end of the spectrum of how much you should have in a reserve fund, which I think the lowest that people say is like 1 month or maybe a couple of months. If you're on the lower end, your first obvious option is to keep growing it. Add a couple of months on. What do you want to do? You could pay down your debts. You can buy stage 3 assets, or you can treat yourself. Now, there's a specific way to treat yourself here. Don't get too excited. It can be fun, but just don't have too much fun in the sense that you are screwing yourself down the road. You don't want to do that. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit later on. That's kind of the 4 basic overviews here. So let's get into it. The pros and cons of continuing to fund it. Well, you got peace of mind. That's an obvious one. If you're on the lower end of the spectrum of like the 1 to 2 months there, and you start to work into that 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 month frame, that's peace of mind. You know that some bad stuff can happen for a while, which it has, and you can take a hit and you can take a longer hit. And when you have peace of mind, you can make smart, rational financial decisions because you have time to make them. You don't have to shoot from the hip, so to speak, and hopefully and end up making a bad decision. You're continuing a good habit. You've already created the habit. You turn that discipline into habit, that habit into a reflex. You're continuing it. The problem with it is that lazy money produces no work. And I put no work, but it's little work. The reason why I'm saying that is that your reserve fund needs to be liquid. It needs to be accessible and easy to get to. Unfortunately, the places that provide those attributes have some negatives. A checking account, savings account, a money market account, maybe a semi-liquid CD. They don't give you good returns. It doesn't matter what these returns are currently that you're looking at, but compared to everything else, they're going to be the lowest. Lazy money produces no work. You're not going to be getting a very good return on your money right here, and it's kind of just going to be sitting idly by. And that leads to not being able to grow your wealth quickly at a rapid pace. Now, if you're in your later years of life, your retirement age, that's maybe not as important to you as someone that is young. But if you're young and you have a very, very tiny nest egg, you're going to want to get your money working as quickly, efficiently, as effectively as possible. And that's not going to happen in a reserve account. So just to take away here, guys, me personally, what I do is when I hit that reserve amount, that I top it out, I will continue to put a little bit of money in there just for the sake of doing it. It could be as low as $5, but you still, the point you're trying to do, your point that I'm trying to do here is to make here is that you are continuing that good habit. You're not doing it and then for a while, then forgetting about it. That's kind of like when you eat healthy for a few months, you lose some weight, you look good, and then you kind of fall off of it. Continue to put a little bit of money into it. It doesn't have to be a lot. Just you're doing it for the sake of the reflex, of maintaining that reflex. Pay down debt. It's simple, it's easy, and this is kind of like the next habit that you want to do. And now when we talk about paying down debt, we're not talking about the minimum payments here. We're talking about focused, aggressive, attacking that debt, knocking it out as quickly as possible, efficiently and effectively as possible. That leads to what the snowball effect is. So let's say you have 10 different debts, all right? On the high end is your largest amounts of debt that you have here, the biggest amount. Maybe that's a mortgage, maybe that's a student loan, maybe it's a car, it could be a car loan, whatever. Maybe you got a couple of things in the middle. Maybe that's a car that's almost paid off. Maybe it's a small medical debt, or maybe it's a credit card, whatever. And on the low end, you got some little tiny stuff, the smallest stuff. Well, start with the smallest stuff first, not because it's the most efficient, effective way to pay it off, but man, it's going to get that mental win. You're going to knock out that first debt. You're going to be like, yes, I did something. I'm feeling something, that snowball effect. You get that tiny snowball at the top of the hill. That's your first kind of payment. You start rolling it down the hill. And by the time it gets to the bottom of the hill, it's a giant boulder. That's what you want to do here. So that first debt, let's say that the principal and interest payment on that debt is $100 a month. All right. Well, you pay that one, and all the other debts that you're paying just the minimum balance on. Whatever they're requiring you to pay, that's what you're paying. So you stick all of your extra cash onto that $100 a month payment, and then you knock that one out. Okay, well, let's move up to the next smallest one. You don't pay the minimum on that anymore. You pay the minimum plus that $100, and you knock that one out. And then you snowball it continuously until you're at that last giant debt. And all of a sudden, you're paying off massive amounts of debt quickly because you don't have any other debts. That's the best. I don't know if it's the best way to do it, but I would say that it's the most exciting way to do it that gets that momentum going. Increases your wealth and your cash flow. If you have a ton of debt, and I was looking at somebody's debt previously, and they had a bunch of rental properties, and their interest rate across how much they paid in interest per month. They didn't have a lot of properties. They had a few, and they had relatively decent interest rates on these properties. He was paying out, I think, $1,500 a month in interest alone. Now, instead of going out and trying to get more real estate and pay and create another $1,500 worth of cash flow income coming in, he could just pay those off. He could have the same amount of properties that he has now. He could have them paid off, and then all of a sudden, his monthly cash flow goes up by $1,500. Now, whether you own real estate or not, I don't care. What I'm focusing in on is that interest payment and that principal payment that you're paying every single month across your entire spectrum of debts. Once you start paying those off, your cash flow and your wealth increases. Your cash flow increases because you don't have that debt to pay off anymore. So you get to keep more of your money. Your wealth increases because your wealth is based off of your assets minus your debts equal your net worth. Got sidetracked there. Your net worth. And your net worth can increase just by paying off those debts. If you have only assets and no debts, then your assets equal your net worth. Super simple way to grow your wealth, super simple way to grow your cash flow. And that leads to needing less reserves. It's a win-win-win here with paying down debts, because in your reserves, you are calculating for that medical bill, that credit card bill, that car payment, that student loan payment, that mortgage payment. All those payments are part of your monthly, this is what I have to pay to continue to live the lifestyle that I want to live. If you start knocking those out, then you don't need as big of a reserve. So let's say your reserve is $4,000 a month. Well, if you knock out $1,000 in principal and interest payments, now you're down to $3,000. And you've increased the amount of months that you've created based off just paying down debts. Paying down debts is a great way. I love it because it hits you in positive ways, all different areas. And it's a cumulative effect. It's that snowball effect. I love it. Cons. Now I'm gonna this is a little bit of it's a con, it's a gray area type of thing. Deleveraging your money. So I did talk about the guy that owns the rental properties there. You're deleveraging your money. So let's say that you have $100,000. Okay, that we're gonna do it. What we're talking about for deleveraging your money here. Let's say you have $100,000 and you can go out and buy a property cash for $100,000. Boom, you own one property cash for $100,000, no debt on it, and you're collecting the rental income from it. Great, that's awesome. Okay, but you could also, if you could be missing out on some deals. And what I'm saying is that let's say there's 4 other properties out there that are undervalued. The people are in trouble. They're not making any money off of it's a fire sale. They want to get rid of these properties. They're selling them for what they're worth, for less than what they are worth. And you're just like, oh man, I got all this money stocked up in this one property, but I can't buy it because I want to keep this property cash free. Well, if you want to leverage your money, you could go out and buy those other 4 properties. And now you have 5 properties at 20% down, but instead of owning 1, you're controlling 5. So you take that $20,000 and you chop it up and you go out and you have 5 properties total. Now you have debt on all those, but you you're supposed to have made a calculated risk and calculated your expenses out and go, okay, the rental income for these 5 properties, I can clear $150 a month cash flow after all my expenses. That's going to be more income than just that one property that I had myself. Plus, I bought them at a discount, at a deal, which means my net worth went up. If you're new to this concept, it might be a little bit confusing, but deleveraging your money, there's a pro to it and there's a con to it. If you're someone that likes to get aggressive with their investing and you like to take calculated risks, then that's the con. You're deleveraging your money. And you miss out on arbitrage or a spread when that buying assets provides. So let's just do another analogy here. Let's say that you owe me money and I'm charging you an interest rate of 2%. Now, you could pay me, let's say you have the money to pay me off, okay? But there is an asset out there. Let's say it's a stock, let's say whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's say that asset, that stock is paying a 10% interest rate on it, a dividend, a 10% dividend. Now, you could continue to pay me my 2% and pay my loan down over time, or and in addition to that, you can go out and buy that stock and get that 10% return. Now, 10% minus 2%, the 10% you're getting on the stock minus 2% that you're paying me, that 8%, that's the arbitrage. That's your spread. You are gaining 8% by leveraging your money and balancing it out correctly, or then instead of just paying me off. Your money's got to go somewhere. So me personally, what I do is I'm trying to eliminate my personal debts, those credit cards, those phone bills, those mortgages, all that personal stuff. And on my business side, I am leveraging in a smart manner using calculated risk. I'm not over leveraging. I'm not under leveraging. I'm doing what's comfortable for me. But I just want you to understand the concept that we're taking here is that there are some cons to paying down debt. And that is you could be missing out on a potential deal. But at the end of the day, guys, paying down debt is a step in the right direction. It's easy, it's simple, you're building up a habit, and it's tough to go wrong with it. There's definitely more pros than cons, but there are some cons to it. And it's something very is something seriously you should consider. Oh, and it's easy to pivot back. So let's say that you're paying down your debts, paying them down, and you're not putting any money into your reserve because your reserve's at the top. You know, you're putting in your $5 a month or whatever just to kind of keep the habit going. Oh no, your car gets, it needs a new muffler system on it. All right. And you pull money out of your reserves to pay off to get that muffler replaced on your car. You weren't expecting that payment. That's why it came out of your reserves. So you have to stop paying extra on your debts and pivot back and pay down and get that reserve back up again. You can pivot towards your debt or towards your reserves back and forth pretty easily in this. And sometimes when you're buying assets, it's a little bit hard to do that, but I wanted to put that in there as it's easy to pivot back and forth when it comes to reserves and debt. Enough said. Buy stage 3 assets. Now I put a link up here in this video. Click on that. This provides a little bit more of a detail on what a stage 3 asset is. I'm only going to go over this stuff at a very high level right now. So on the left here, we're going to go through each one of these and explain what this stuff is. So active and passive income. A stage 3 asset is generally, assets are broken down into 2 different categories generally, and that is active or passive. Now, what is the difference between active and passive? Well, active is kind of like a job. You trade time for dollars. Passive income is kind of like an investment. You're investing in a system. That system could be CDs, it could be private lending, it could be stocks, it could be bonds, it could be real estate and all types of different real estate, obviously, but you're investing in a system. And if you're kind of like, all right, well, I don't know if I should, what do I do? Which direction I go to? Well, the quick litmus test of this is, do you have more time on your hands or do you have more money on your hands? If you have more time on your hands, you don't have that much money, then you're probably gonna be going in the job direction, picking up a side job, maybe picking up some overtime, maybe creating a small business where you can sell stuff, whatever. If your time is booked up or you just don't want to put any more time into work, but you got some money, then you can put your money into passive income avenues. I put side job up here and I put sell stuff because I want to make sure that people are they're not locking into the active income equals a job. Active income is trading time for dollars. So a side job or whatever, it's just like your regular job. You go in, you put in 8 hours, you clock out at the end of the day, and you get paid for those 8 hours. It's a one and done. 1 + 1 = 2. But try to think outside the box here too, a little bit. If you have a bunch of extra stuff in your house that you just don't need, don't want, don't care about, you can sell it. Now, you have all this stuff, you put it up on a site or a yard sale or whatever, and you sell it. That is a one-time, one-thing situation. You had stuff, you sold it, now you have cash, and you don't have the stuff anymore. It's 1 + 1 = 2 situation. But don't just think of just a job. Think of like you can sell the stuff that you have. Now, you can't continually sell stuff out of your house till you just have a box to sleep on. We're not talking about that. But look at the bigger picture. It's you're trading time for dollars or inventory for dollars. It's a one and done type of thing. And what's great about that is that active income is that the money turns around quick, and it's usually higher than what passive income will give you. So passive income, CDs, stocks, real estate, you're buying a system. And I kind of put them in order here of level of involvement. So CDs are the lowest level of involvement, and in my opinion, they're the lowest risk. You go into a bank, you buy a CD, and you're going to get the lowest rate of return. You don't got to do any work. Stocks, that's all over the board. Some stocks are safer, quote unquote, safer than others. And then real estate, when I'm talking about real estate, I'm talking about you are actively flipping a house or you are actively managing a rental system. Now, I don't want you to go backwards and go, well, isn't that active income? Passive income is a sliding scale. There's nothing that is truly technically passive that I've found in my life. There's a CD is probably one of the most passive, but it also gives the lowest rates of returns. Stocks are somewhere in the middle. And then real estate is, you get a better rate of return, or at least you should be, versus how much time and effort you're putting into it. And also, I got due diligence here on the left-hand side. Different types of investments require different types of due diligence. CDs do not require a lot of due diligence. In fact, me personally, if I have any question on this bank, I'm not giving them money for a CD. CDs are supposed to be super boring, just vanilla. You put $1,000 in, that's the most you can lose. Let's say the bank folds and just collapses in on itself, and they run off with your money. You're out $1,000. That's not something to be happy about, but that's also the end of your kind of risk, of your exposure, so to speak. They got your $1,000. Stocks, it kind of the same thing. And then real estate, it can get a little bit more hairy on that. You can invest in a property, think you got a good deal, find out the foundation's crumbling, it's got a bunch of liens on it, and yay. It could go south pretty quick there. And that maybe you invested 20 grand into a super cheap property and they have to put another 100 into it just to get it up to the value of being worth $50,000. That's not a good situation to be in. I'm not trying to scare you guys away from real estate. I'm just saying that due diligence is key, and it's a sliding scale here. This is a great way to grow your wealth, but just make sure you understand what you're doing. Read up on it, and we'll kind of get into it a little bit later, but read up on it, take a calculated risk, and move forward from there. So what should we be avoiding, guys? Well, increasing your expenses. If you are putting away $500 a month into your reserve, and now you don't have to put $500 a month into your reserves, that don't go out and increase your lifestyle. It's not a one and done thing. You busted your butt to get to this point. Don't increase your lifestyle. And don't give me this, what I call a shadow expense. Don't come at me with, well, I bought a car and I paid for it in cash, so this is an expense. Yes, it is. You still have to maintain the car. You still have to insure the car. And even if you just let it sit in your yard and don't put any insurance on it, well, why the heck did you buy the car in the first place? Plus, that might not be legal anyway. So watch out for increasing your expenses. I'm not saying you shouldn't go out and maybe take a 3-day weekend because you hit that reserve mark. You deserve to do something, a dinner out, whatever. But make sure that your reward is in line with the effort that you put into it. And you don't want to backslide by increasing your expenses on a monthly basis. Subscriptions or making payment, like buying something on credit and making payments on it. We're going backwards here, guys. So just don't shoot yourselves in the foot. And if you don't know what to do, chill out for a second, relax. You've done something that most people don't do. Most people don't have a reserve account. So relax, take a deep breath. Congratulations, you have a reserve. You've built up a reflex from a discipline to a habit to a reflex. Good. Take your time, do some research on the things that we've talked about here. Do you want to pay off debt? Do you want to look into buying assets? Do you just want to sock the money away into a savings account? That research part of it is going to depend on you. Some people want to jump headfirst into the deep end of investing and they'll figure it out. Some people want to tiptoe in at the baby end, and both people are right based off of their lifestyle and their choices. But know yourself and take a calculated risk. So what should you be leaning into? Well, guys, remember, reserves equals a step towards financial freedom. You are one step closer to being financially free. So ask yourself some questions. And these are questions that you want to ask yourself in a quiet room with no distractions, maybe just a pad and paper, or maybe a voice recorder, nothing that can distract you. What would you do if you were 100% debt free? If you're drowning in debt right now, what would you be doing if you didn't have any of that debt? How would you feel? How would you spend your time? What would you be thinking about? What would you want to do with your time? Who would you want to be around? What would you do if you could replace your paycheck? This is kind of the stage 3, build your assets up. We're not buying stocks and CDs for the fun of it. We're buying it for cash. We're buying it for money. We're buying it for freedom. What would you do if you could replace your paycheck completely? Where would you go? What would you do all that time? Would you continue working? Some people would continue working on a voluntary basis. Or they just keep right on working with their job. They just have that money and they just sock it away. What would you be doing if you were debt-free and you could replace your income with passive, by passive income means? Guys, this might be a time to start writing some stuff down. What would you want to be doing with your life if you could do what you wanted to do, with whom you wanted to do it, when you wanted to do it, how you wanted to do it, as often as you wanted to do it. And you didn't have to do what your credit cards and your bills were telling you to do. So take some time on this slide by yourself. Guys, did we answer all your questions? What has stopped you in the past from reaching your financial goals? What types of videos would you like to see? Please like, comment, subscribe. And Facebook, find us 9 to 5ers on Facebook. Join us. More than happy to have you. Write your stuff down in the comments down. What's your goals for finances? What's your biggest struggles? We want to hear from you guys, because hearing feedback from the group, from the community, helps us create the videos that you're going to want to see. So we're here for you. So take advantage of it. Thank you guys so much. We are here to make you smarter today and richer tomorrow. Thank you.